Sir Knights, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our presenter for this evening. He'll be making the presentation over the Holy Land Pilgrimage and the Knights of the Holy Land programs of the Grand Encampment. And that is our very own Sir Knight Mark McFadden, who is the Eminent Grand Senior Warden of your Grand Commandery. Sir Knight McFadden, you have the show, sir.
Thank you, Right Eminent, sir. Greetings, Sir Knights. It's a privilege to talk to you this evening. The Knights Templar Holy Land Pilgrimage is a program related to the Grand Encampment Knights Templar of the United States of America. Interestingly enough, the Holy Land Pilgrimage was started in Detroit, Michigan by Detroit Commandery No. 1 and Damascus Commandery No. 2 with the assistance and the backing of then Grandmaster Scotty Cameron in 1972. Records from the early years of the program were not very well kept. However, it's estimated that in excess of 2,600 ministers have been sent by our commanderies throughout the United States of America. It is estimated that between 1979 and 2010, that the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma sent approximately 30 ministers to the Holy Land. Again, records were not kept very well as they could have been, and I've been unable to locate all the proceedings from those years, so that's an estimate, but it's probably pretty close. From 2011 to present, the records are much more reliable, and it appears that to date we've sent 11 ministers during that time period. In the early years of Oklahoma's participation in this very important program, the cost to send our ministers was covered by some very generous Sir Knights from around the state who saw the importance of this program and contributed very generously. Then, during the annual grand session of the Grand Commandery, during Edward Becerra's year, they authorized the creation of the Knights of the Holy Land Endowment Fund. Speaking with Sir Knight John Logan, past Grand Commander of our fine commandery, he reports that he was pleased to have the support of the senior members of the Grand Commandery line, and that the membership approved the resolution as presented without dissent. That resolution read as follows: to the Right Eminent Grand Commander and the members of the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma. Whereas the Knights Templar Holy Land Pilgrimage is a program of the Grand Encampment Knights Templar of the United States of America, whose mission it is to send ordained ministers on a biblical study and historical and cultural immersion experience that they could not otherwise have the opportunity to experience. And whereas the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma is responsible for the cost of any Oklahoma minister or ministers sent on such a mission, and whereas the Grand Commandery has not established a permanent endowment fund for this continuing support of that mission, therefore be it resolved that a permanent Holy Land Pilgrimage endowment be established as a separate, segregated account within the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma for the purpose of creating an investment pool of funds whose earnings would be used solely for the benefit of the Oklahoma Holy Land Pilgrimage Program. In the event that the Holy Land Pilgrimage Program is ever discontinued by the Grand Encampment, the endowment is to be transferred as an endowment to the Education Fund of the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma. I thought that was rather interesting. The goal of the program was to solicit a pool of endowed funds, the earnings of which would be used to support the Holy Land Pilgrimage. Donors can be individuals, organizations, or corporations. The goal was for the earnings to generate sufficient funds to ensure the continuation of the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma's participation in this very important program. Donors will contribute no less than $1,000, which may be paid $100 per year over a period of 10 years. The commitment may be withdrawn by any donor when an unforeseen circumstance requires. All donors, upon completion of their 1,000 or more donation, will receive a beautiful Knights of the Holy Land jewel. The elements of this jewel include the Malta Cross, the Jerusalem Cross, and a ribbon of Oklahoma blue. John Bridegroom also suggested the gold backing, which was added and adds very much to the image of metal. The mission of this program is to send credentialed members on a biblical study and historical and cultural immersion experience that they would not otherwise have the opportunity to achieve. The purpose of the program is to strengthen Christian ministry by providing an intensive travel and study program for credentialed ministers in the form of a study pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Experience has shown how much the opportunity to walk where Jesus walked can positively affect the preaching, teaching, and spirituality of Christian ministers. It is the program's intent to immerse the pilgrim ministers in the land, the sights, the sounds, the history, and the culture of the Holy Land, both past and present. In this program, the various state commanderies of Knights Templar sponsor Christian ministers on an expense-paid study pilgrimage in Israel for 11 nights. Local ministers are invited by individual commanderies of Knights Templar to consider the possibility, and nomination form is supplied to them by either the chairman of the committee or their local commandery. The Holy Land Committee then reviews the nominations received and forwards their recommendation to the Right Eminent Grand Commander for his review and final decision. This is a fully packed itinerary and a physically aggressive program that involves 5 to 7 miles of walking many days, often uphill or on steep steps or on very uneven surfaces. The pilgrimage takes place in February of each year. Nominations for this year must be received at the Grand Encampment by September 30th, 2022, along with all necessary fees. The cost this year for us to send a minister is $3,900 from JFK Airport in New York to Tel Aviv. This includes 3 meals, daily entrance fees, their standard tips, travel insurance, etc. The Grand Commandery of Oklahoma is also responsible for the cost of the domestic flight from Oklahoma to New York's JFK Airport. The ministers that we send travel in groups of 25 or more. They are not permitted to take their spouse or other family member with them under any circumstance. The reason for this is that the pilgrim experience is offered as a study trip and an investment in ministry. Couples trips are often very different in nature, atmosphere, and schedule. The needs of the spouse's time take away from the study focus of the trip. The program is for ministers who might not otherwise have an opportunity to visit the Holy Land. It's an investment in their Christian ministry. Though we hope it will give them an experience of the Bible, the history and culture of the Holy Land, is intended to be inspirational and challenging. It is our goal to advance the lives of pilgrim ministers, their congregations, and the communities in which they serve. Ministers generally stay in a hotel in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and at kibbutz in Galilee. All accommodations are considered first class or better. In Israel, they enjoy a full breakfast. I'm told breakfast is a dairy meal. I would be interested to know exactly what that entails. Lunch is usually enjoyed along the way during the day. Each evening, they enjoy a buffet dinner, usually at the hotel, and this is a meat meal. Again, it would be interesting to know what meats they are served. Ministers are encouraged to purchase and drink bottled water while traveling in these foreign areas, and bottled water is always widely available to them as they travel throughout the Middle East. All meals in Israel, except for one on Sunday at lunch, are covered by the Knights Templar. The average temperature in Israel during their travels is winter months and normally ranges from 30 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This is also their rainy season, so the ministers are encouraged to carry a lightweight poncho. Ministers have been advised to carry U.S. currency, and it's recommended they carry at least $50 in ones, an assortment of $5, $10, and $20 bills. And past ministers spoken to have recommended that a minister travel with no less than $500 for incidentals and souvenirs. The program provides travel insurance, which will cover a number of situations, not the least of which could include illness or death, medical expenses overseas, lost or damaged luggage, and economy airfare if it is necessary for the minister to fly home early due to personal illness or death of an immediate family member. Ministers upon their return will receive a certificate of participation, which will qualify them for up to 3 hours of continuing education. And through other suggestions offered, they could actually increase this up to 5 hours by doing additional reading and research. Ministers are required to have a valid passport, and if they do not have one, they should initiate the process of obtaining one as soon as they're notified by the committee they have been selected. If a minister already has a passport, you need to make sure that the passport is going to be valid for 6 months after the date they're scheduled to return. If it's not, then they will need to apply for a passport renewal. That's information I did not have until doing this research. Ministers will have an opportunity to have a baptism renewal in the Jordan River, something I can only imagine the experience of. They will also have the opportunity to take a dip in the salty waters of the Dead Sea, one place where I might actually float. As you can see, this most definitely is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and one I think all of us would love to be a part of. But sadly, in the past several years, we have struggled to get our local commanderies to nominate pastors from their area. This program has the potential to make a very significant impact in the community served by the pastors chosen, and also provide some much needed exposure for the nominating commandery and our order. I would therefore encourage every commandery in Oklahoma to get out and the remaining time they have in their community, find a minister deserving of a nomination. All of the necessary forms can be downloaded from the Grand Encampment website or are readily available just by contacting myself. Remember that all forms for this year's committee must be received no later than July 15th of 2022. And with that, Right Eminent Grand Commander, I'm ready to entertain any questions that might be out there.
Thank you, Sir Knight McFadden. How many ministers are we planning on sending this year?
This year, we are looking to send 2 ministers. From the records, I found one other time in Oklahoma's commandery history that we have sent 2. There may be others, but they were not in proceedings I could find. But we currently have 4 nominations in hand, and we're looking to send 2, at least 2.
And all of the cost is paid or is paid by the Grand Commandery of Oklahoma.
Just airfare from Tulsa to New York, and then from New York to Tel Aviv, and all of their travel is covered. After reading this and visiting with ministers who've been, I think that it might be something a commander would consider to maybe take some money out of their treasury and maybe gift it to the minister for his incidentals. $500 seems to be kind of the average, even for most of them, just for incidentals and souvenirs and water. So I think if we're sending them, why not go ahead and give them a little going away parting gift and some funds to take with them. And after reading this, I would say if you could go to the bank and cash it, get them a stack of dollar bills and 5s and 20s, so they've already got that ready to go when they depart.
And the deadline is July 15th, as you said.
Yes, that time's necessary. That way the committee I'll email everything I received, all the committee, let them digest it, then we can have a Zoom call to discuss the applications, then we can forward them on to you for a final stamp of approval.
Okay. And then all the money has to be sent into the Grand Encampment office by September 30th, correct?
Yes, that has to, and once that's sent in, pastors need to know we're locked in immediately from that point on. We're going to suffer a loss if they don't go. So we need to make sure they understand that once they're nominated and accepted, we expect them to go short of death for health.
But that money is only our money. That's just the $3,900 that we're sending to the Grand Encampment office, correct?
Yes, and then
the other portion will be spent by the Grand Commander to buy the plane ticket from Oklahoma to JFK.
That's correct. That's correct. And they actually have information for our Grand Recorder as to how to book it, who to book it, so everybody arrives together.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Sir Knight and McFadden on this great program? It's, you know, if you've ever been to grand sessions during the banquet and have heard the testimony, the report of one of these ministers who has gone on, it's life-changing for them. So this is a very good program, and I would encourage the constituent commanderies, if you can, to get a nomination in. If you can't get the nomination in for this time, fill out the form now and get it sent in for next year. So so that nomination can be submitted. Sir Knight McGath has a question. His hand is up.
Okay, my pastor was going to fill out an app, and he resigned. I take it I can't use him any longer. He resigned as pastor. Then he's going to Kuwait. And I thought, well, but I had his application in hand, and I was going to turn it in at the next meeting. So he's out, right?
You might want to hold on to him for the next cycle.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir Knight Cliff Taylor, your hand is up.
Yes, start out Mark McFadden. Is there just one trip a year, or is there 2 trips?
They send 2 groups of ministers. The first one leaves mid-February. The second group leaves the last week of February, around in the first part of March.
So both times will be. So both times will be for the same date of the September 22nd.
For as far as the deadline.
Yes, for both trips.
Yes, and then once they receive all the petitions, they basically assign them to group 1 or group 2 according to the date they received their application.
Okay, thank you very much.
We can't guarantee them which dates they'll get, but the earlier we send them in, the better their chance is of being in group number 1.
Good, thank you.
Sir Knight McFadden, can the local commanderies, they can sponsor more than one minister. They can submit more than one minister's name, correct?
Sure, the more the better. And I would also say that a commandery could also decide to be a sponsor for the Knights of the Holy Land. Doesn't have to be an individual. If a commandery wanted to go together and make a $1,000 donation in honor of Trinity Commandery, then we'll present Trinity Commandery with the proper recognition, and they could help sponsor this. To me, this is one of the most important programs we offer, and when you think about it, the return on it is exponential. I mean, if we've spent over 3,000 ministers since this started, and each one of those ministers has a congregation of 100, just think about how many lives have been touched in the congregation, and then the people that congregation comes in contact with. So I think with us being a Christian organization, we couldn't have a better flagship program than the Holy Land Pilgrimage to offer. But we just don't seem to support it statewide like I really think we should. It's a very important program.
Speaking of Knights of the Holy Land, how do you know where we're at as far as our goal? I think we're above our goal.
We are above.
But we still have jewels left too, right?
Yes, Sir Knight Green sent me the number today. I believe he said we had issued 40. John, I'm trying to find it. We've issued 41 jewels so far. I'm assuming we at least ordered the minimum of 50, but I don't have the exact number. And I talked to our grand treasurer, and he promised to send me the financials, but I never did get them.
So, Sir Knights, if you have not participated in the Knights of the Holy Land program, I would encourage you to do that. It's a $1,000 donation, but you can also set up a payment program of $100. You can do it a month. You can do it every 2 months, or you can do $100 a year until that $1,000 accumulates to your account. And then once $1,000 gets, you'll be presented your Knights of the Holy Land jewel. And I will say that the Knights of the Holy Land jewels are allowed to be worn on your Templar uniforms. We have been granted permission from the Grand Encampment to add that jewelry to our uniform. So, you can wear it, put on your uniform if you have a Class A, If you have, if you're cap and mantle, you can wear it on your white shirt, and wear it with pride and display that you are a contributor to the and supporter of the Knights of the Holy Land. And just as Sir Knight McFadden did say, the Commandery can also make a donation as well to that program as well. Any other questions of Sir Knight McFadden before we move on?
Right, Eminent Sir, and Sir Knight McFadden. Just for everybody's information, like Mark said, we've given out 41 pins or 41 jewels. I have up to 99, so we've got plenty of jewels. So if you want to make your $1,000 donation, I can get you the form.
Right. Is that form on the website, or does it need to be, or do you just have it?
If it's not on the website, I will put it out there before the night's over.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? All right. Sir Knight McFadden, thank you very much for your presentation. It's always good to hear history of how something got started. And we have, never really dived into the history of the Knights of the Holy Land pilgrimage and how it has got started, at least from an Oklahoma perspective. And so thank you for your research, and thank you for the presentation tonight. You'll get to keep, we'll keep you around. So you did a good job tonight, sir. Thank you very much for your time spent.